Hi folks, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. Welcome back to the unit testing series, and as I had said in the previous video, we will have to choose components to get started with unit testing. Best way to get started is choose those components which have least dependencies. And one such component is these filter by continent, filter by drive side. If you are wondering what these are, I can quickly show you functionality where it is getting affected. We have these selections, continent and drive side. So when you click on continent and say Asia, it filters the countries by those countries which are present in Asia continent. In the same way, you have this drive side, and when you enter a drive side left, it only shows those countries which drive on the left side of the road. And we want to get started by unit testing these things. And as I said, this is easy to get started with because it doesn't have too many dependencies. If you have dependencies, then you will have to think about how to pass those dependencies to do the testing. This doesn't have such dependencies. So this is very easy to get started with. Probably another similar thing that we have is converters. Converters also doesn't have any kind of dependencies. It is a simple class. So it would be very easy for us to get started with testing. So where do you write tests? The tests are usually written under test folder, and right now this is a empty folder. If you just change it to Android, this is how this folder looks like. And you would be writing your test cases under this particular folder. And in the previous video, we have already added necessary dependencies that we needed for writing test cases. So that is already taken care. So before we actually start implementing the unit tests, let's understand theoretically what is the best way to get started with unit testing. Well, there are two models in which you typically write unit tests. One is called as AAA model of writing unit tests, and then there is another mechanism which is called as GWT model of writing unit tests. And what does AAA mean? AAA basically means arrange, act, and then assert. This is what AAA basically means. And GWT comes from given, when, then model. Both are pretty much same, but before we understand what both of these are, let's try to understand what is the whole philosophy behind these two models of writing unit tests. Let's take, for example, the thing that we are trying to test. What we are trying to test is whether the filtration of list of countries is happening properly or not. That is what we are trying to test. So one way to think about it is, given a list of countries, when filter by drive by is applied, then filter out only those countries which satisfy the condition. Let me make this small. So given a condition, when you apply the test criteria, then what should happen? That is how you basically write the test. So instead of saying by is applied, I can say that when filter drive by left is applied, then filter out only those countries which drive left side of the road. So this is what GWT model, when applied to a test case, looks like. I can also write pretty much same thing in AAA model, which is arrange, act, assert. What do you mean by arrange? Whenever you are trying to test, you need to set up the test. So what you can say is arrange list of countries, act, which is apply the drive by left filter, assert, which is check whether filter works as expected. This is exactly the same as GWT model, just that we are using a different jargon or naming convention here. But then you might be wondering, why are these two things there? Why some people use AAA model and why some other set of people might be using GWT model? I would say this AAA model is more developer centric, because this is how developers typically think. And the GWT model, this is, I would say, more behavior driven development based approach. So people who follow BDD approach, they typically use this GWT model. Once again, this BDD approach is based on test driven development. It is up to you what you want to follow, whether you want to follow AAA model or GWT model, but please ensure that you stick to consistency. If you are following AAA, use AAA across the application. And if you are using GWT, then consistently use GWT convention. If you start mixing up both things, then it will lead to unnecessary confusion. Having said that, now let's get down to writing the unit tests. The typical convention is you should ideally mirror the same package structure within the test package as well. So where are our filters? They are in the repository. So what I will do is I will create another new package here. Let me call it as repository, and then I will create a Kotlin class here, and let me call it as filter by drive side. But then I want to differentiate this as a test class. So let me write test. Some people write test filter drive by side. Few others use test at the end. It's up to you. But if you are following a convention, just stick to that particular convention everywhere else. That just makes everything easy. And now inside this, write your test case. So the test cases are basically functions. Within each particular function, you use a GWT or a AAA model to write your unit test cases. So let's write a function. Let me call it as filter should return countries matching drive side. And once again, why did I write a function name like this? There is a reason. You should write the test cases functions such that just by looking at that function name, you should be able to quickly figure out what that particular function is trying to test. So this makes it very easy for you to later understand what is it that you are basically trying to test. So in this case, what I am testing is I am checking that when I apply a filter, the countries that get filtered should match by the drive side value that I am passing. And when you do that, the first thing you do is you use test annotation. So it is using this test annotation that the JUnit framework understands that this is a test case that needs to be run as a JUnit test case. And inside this, you can now start writing your test cases. So what I will use is AAA model. And what is a AAA model? First you arrange, and then you act, and then finally you assert. So how do I arrange? So I need to have a list of countries which have both left and right side as its side values. So I will create a val of countries, and it should contain list of country, and that has name. Let me call it as country 1, and then it has a car side equals to left. For this, you need to be aware of how our country data class looks like. If you are wondering what it is, you can go through this. You should get a pretty fair idea of what it is. Since I am already aware of it, I am using it with my backhand knowledge. And let's create a couple of more of these things. Let me make it country 2, country 3, and let me write right, and this is left. Yeah, so I basically arranged the first part. So the first A is done. The next one is I have to act. That is val left filtered countries is equal to filter by drive side. I have to pass left and then filter countries. Suspend function filter should be called only from the coroutine. So in our original code, this is a suspend function. So that is why we are getting this particular compilation error. We can get rid of this particular problem by putting this under run blocking. That should take care of the problem. So what we have done is we have created this filter by drive side, because this is exactly what we are testing now. and we applied the filter, and now we got the list of countries. If you are getting confused, let me break this a bit. Val filter is equal to this part. I will write it here, and then I will use this filter object here. I think that should make it a much more clear. And then finally assert. This is where you are now checking whether it is working as per the expectation. So assert equals. So these are basically the methods coming from the JUnit assert functionalities. So I can write assert equals, and what is the expected value? 2, because there are 2 countries which are on the left, and when I apply the filter left, I should get only 2 countries. So the size of that should be 2. That is what I am writing this here, expected 2. And then result, that is left filtered countries dot size, should be 2. That is what I am asserting. And I can just run the test here, and it will start running the test case. And you can see that that particular test case ran perfectly fine. That basically means this particular test case is running fine. What I also want to probably check is, okay, the size is 2, but I probably also want to check each and every car that is there under this particular left filtered countries is having the value as left. So I am little bit more cautious here. So what I will do is, so for each I am checking assert country.car optional side is equal to left. So I am basically checking that each of the country inside this particular thing for the car value side is left or not. Because if by mistake something else is there, then I don't want to caught off guarded. So let me once again rerun this. Yeah, it's working fine. So this is how you write your unit tests. So what we covered today is just how to write the unit test cases, 2 models, AAA model or GWT model, and then we wrote our very first unit test case. We are just getting started, and we will start exploring what more things we can do with unit testing. So stay tuned for the next video. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.